now a word from our sponsor, the RAJU. Tired of your old wallet? Is it bulky and uncomfortable to carry? The RAJU helps you carry less, but always what you need. Their wallets are sleek, 2 metal plates bound together by a durable elastic band, making them look nothing like your ugly old leather bifold. Titanium, carbon fiber, and aluminium options ensure there's an option for everyone. With 30,000 5-star reviews, it's a wallet I use. With a lifetime warranty and free returns if you don't like it, there are over a dozen different styles and colors to choose from. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by visiting raj.com/mark. That's raj.com/mark and use the code MARK. See the link in the description box below. In a museum in Vienna sits a very old car. It hasn't been driven in many long decades, and no one can be found to do so. Why? Because, well, this particular antique car has a disconcerting habit of killing its drivers. 13 people associated with this automobile have died, many whilst driving it, while many more have survived but with disfiguring injuries or missing limbs. Can a car be cursed? In the case of the car in Vienna, it would appear so. Perhaps it's not that surprising, for this car was intimately involved in the incident that started World War I and the deaths of millions. It is a car of death in more ways than one. June 1914. Europe is a patchwork of kingdoms and empires, chief among them Germany, Britain, France, and Russia. But one great empire has lost its former glory and has come to be called the sick man of Europe, Austria-Hungary. Since 1867, the kingdoms of Austria and Hungary have been in union, ruled by the Habsburg family. But in 1914, the empire is weak. Its emperor, Franz Joseph I, is an old man of 84, his health failing after ruling Austria and then Austria-Hungary for 65 years. His heir is his nephew, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a man obsessed with hunting and travelling, having personally shot 300,000 animals for trophies. A man, they said, exuded an aura of strangeness and cast a shadow of violence and recklessness. Within the empire, some elements in its vassal states want independence. One particular problem was the province of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the Balkans. A group called the Black Hand wanted Austria-Hungary's South Slav provinces to break away from the empire to be combined into something called Yugoslavia. The movement's members were military officers of the Kingdom of Serbia. Serbian nationalists were intent on expanding the new country by absorbing Slavic provinces of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and had already requisitioned Macedonia and Kosovo from the Ottoman Empire following a war in 1912-13. Many Serbs living in Bosnia and Herzegovina chafed under Habsburg rule. There had been several assassinations of Austrian officials. In June 1914, the emperor commanded his nephew to visit the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarajevo, to open a new state museum and inspect some troops. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand would be accompanied by his wife, the Duchess Sophie. The wife was not an aristocrat, nor from a dynastic family, and Franz had only been allowed to marry her on the condition that their descendants would never ascend to the throne of Austria-Hungary. Due to rigorous court rules, Sophie was never allowed to sit by her husband's side on state occasions. The only time she could be treated as an archduchess was when Franz acted in a military capacity. As part of the trip to Sarajevo included a military element. For once, Sophie would be beside her husband, riding in carriages and cars with him. The Black Hand selected Franz Ferdinand for assassination while he was in Sarajevo. Some youths were recruited to carry out the act and given hand grenades, Browning FN Model 1910 automatic pistols, and suicide pills. On the morning of the 28th of June 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his imperial party arrived by train at Sarajevo. 6 cars were waiting. Franz and his wife, the local Governor-General Oskar Potiorek, and Franz's aide rode in the 3rd car. A brand new Graf und Stift 2832 double phaeton. The vehicle was open-topped. After a brief inspection of a military barracks, the motorcade proceeded to the town hall. Security was light. No troops lined the route, and just 60 police officers were on duty that Sunday. The cars drove past 2 of the assassins, who failed to attack. But as the cars approached a street near the river, an assassin threw a hand grenade at Franz Ferdinand's car. The grenade bounced off the folded-down convertible roof and rolled under the following car, detonating, injuring 16 to 20 people. The assassin immediately swallowed poison and jumped in the river, but threw up the poison, was dragged to the bank and beaten by the crowd before being arrested. The remaining 5 cars drove quickly towards the town hall. Franz was shaken and upset. He turned to the mayor of Sarajevo and said, "Mr. Mayor, I came here on a visit and I am greeted with bombs. It is outrageous." He then calmed down and delivered his speech as planned. It was suggested that the imperial couple remain at the town hall until troops were summoned for their protection, but the Governor-General vetoed the idea. It was decided that they would instead visit the wounded in hospital. Owing to confusion, the motorcade drivers took the vehicles through the crowded city centre as originally planned, instead of a quieter and safer route. Waiting for them near the Latin Bridge was assassin Gavrilo Princip. Franz Ferdinand's car came to a temporary stop right next to where Princip was standing. Princip didn't hesitate. He stepped onto the car's running board and shot Franz Ferdinand and Sophia at point-blank range. But before he could shoot himself, Princip was seized by police. Both royals were mortally wounded. The car was raced to the governor's home, but both Franz Ferdinand and Duchess Sophia died. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand would have dire consequences for all of humanity, leading the great nations into World War I, with a result in the deaths of 16 million people, and the end of all of the continental empires, including Austria-Hungary. But what of the car that carried the imperial couple to their appointment with death, whose seats were stained with their blood? It soon acquired a peculiar reputation that has endured to the present day. Some say it is cursed. Its first owner following the assassination was General Oskar Potiorek, who had actually been riding in the car when Franz Ferdinand was murdered as governor of Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was said that World War I unbalanced him and he developed mental problems and later died in a lunatic asylum. The car was sold to an army captain. It brought him no joy. He was killed when he struck 2 peasants on the road when driving the cursed car. Next, the car was purchased by a governor in the new nation of Yugoslavia. In 4 months, the governor was involved in 4 motoring accidents, the last resulting in the amputation of his right arm. The governor sold the car to a medical doctor, but the curse struck again. Out motoring one day, the doctor was involved in an accident, overturned the car, and was crushed to death in it. In total, it has been reported that 13 people have died who have been associated with Franz Ferdinand's car. So where is the cursed car today? It sits on public display at the Museum of Military History in Vienna, never driven or even sat in, its reputation preceding it. But am I being completely honest with you, dear viewer? Is the story I've outlined true? In part, yes. Franz Ferdinand and his wife certainly died on the car's back seat in 1914. But the rest of it, the death of the subsequent owners, well, that's what is called an urban myth. In 1959, the story of Franz Ferdinand's haunted car appeared in a book called Stranger Than Science, written by American ufologist Frank Edwards. Had Edwards invented the story to sell books? No. He was merely reporting a much older hoax. In fact, the story of Franz Ferdinand's cursed car had already been disproved by a German reporter in 1927 when he was sent to Hungary to investigate another accident associated with the car. So what's the real story of the death car? In point of fact, the car remained the property of the man who owned it on the day of the assassination, Count Harrach, a military aide to Franz Ferdinand. So upset was he by Franz Ferdinand's death, the Count dedicated the vehicle to his memory and supervised its transfer to the Army Museum in Vienna in 1914. There it remained on public display until another world war almost destroyed it. In 1944, Allied bombing of Vienna caused the car some damage. Then, in the 1950s, the car was restored to how it looked in June 1914 and has been on display once more since 1957. But you have to admit, the urban myth is a much better story. But I'll leave you with a truly strange twist. The number plate of Franz Ferdinand's car is A111118, which is the date when World War I ended, the 11th day, the 11th month of 1918. Happy Halloween.